All right, grade 5s and 6, welcome back for our second topic in Unit 3, Parts of Speech, and that's verbs. Now, verbs you probably have most commonly heard defined as action words. They are the words that show action in our sentences. I don't love that definition because sometimes students think of words like fast as being action words because it seems like it's an action, right? But it's actually a describing word. And so one of the definitions I like to use for verbs is that they're doing words. They show what somebody's doing. So here are 3 example sentences. He sings in the choir. What does he do? He sings. So there's my verb. Heather went to school. What did she do? She went. So that's my verb. Bob raced to the bus stop. What did he do? He raced. Now you can already see here that verbs also tell me when things are happening, and that's called the tense of a verb. So action words or doing words. There's another category of verbs that students often miss because they don't seem like they're doing anything. And those are something that we call the state of being verbs. They're all related to the verb to be. That's why we call them state of being verbs. And they're verbs that link. So sometimes people call them linking verbs. They link the subject with an adjective or with a noun. So here's a list of the state of being verbs. Is, am, are, was, were, been. If I have a sentence like he is an artist, then it's linking my subject he with the noun artist. Or if I say he is artistic, it's linking my adjective artistic with the subject he. So they're linking verbs, state of being verbs. These are really important ones to remember because they are actually some of the most common verbs that we use. We describe things all the time, and description always requires one of these. We've also got verbs that don't seem like they're action words that sometimes people think of linking verbs as ones like becomes. It doesn't seem like it has any action. To become, I become, you become, we are becoming, but those are also verbs. If you think that a sentence doesn't have a verb in it, that's totally not true because every sentence has to have a verb. Remember back to Unit 2 stuff, every sentence has a verb because that's where the predicate is starting, and that the verb makes the simple predicate, right? Okay, we've looked so far mostly at verbs that are single verbs, but we also have, of course, verb phrases. So verb phrases are made up of 2 parts, a helping verb and a main verb. The main verb is the one that shows us the doing part, the action word. The helping verb is often helping us to understand when things are happening. Is it happening now in the present? Is it happening in the past? Or is it happening in the future? So here are 3 example sentences, or 4, sorry, miscounting. She will come home tomorrow. She will come home tomorrow. So come is my action word, right? My main verb. But will is also a verb, and it's helping me understand that this is going to happen tomorrow so that this is future tense. The women are playing cards. What are they doing? They're playing. There's my main verb. But are is also a verb. It's a helping verb in this case, helping me to understand that this is present tense. Where have you been? Well, been would be my main verb. Remember to be? But have is a helping verb. Now, when is this happening? This would be a past tense sentence. Notice that I am not underlining you in my sentence because you is not a verb. So my verb phrase is actually split up into 2 different parts here. Now, if we think back to Unit 2 as well, I have a verb and then I have my subject. This is an inverted sentence, and it's a question mark. Did you notice that? One of the ways that we can make questions is to split up our verb phrase and put our subject in between, and this is called inversion. In grade 7 and 8 in French, you'll be looking at inversion as a way of making questions because it's really, really commonly done in French. In English, we only do it if we've got a verb phrase, but in French, you can even do it if you only have one subject and verb, and you flip them around, start with your verb, and there you go, you've got a question. Last sentence here, I am not going to the beach. So going is my doing word, right? And am is my helping verb. Now, not is not a verb. It's actually an adverb. Never would be the same thing. Do not underline not or never as parts of your verb phrases or you. Make sure that the only words you're actually counting as verbs are in fact verbs. Next topic here, participles. Participles are something that we've talked about in our making words lessons. They're something that we use all the time without thinking about them, but maybe we don't really know what they are. So to help us understand here, participles need a helping verb. They don't stand on their own, and the participle itself can be present or past. What can be confusing is that sometimes our participle can be the same as a past tense verb, but we'll look at some examples to clarify here. So first sentence, Dan is cooking dinner for us. What's my verb phrase? Is cooking. Now, cooking being my main verb and is being my helping verb, my participle is cooking. So that's a pretty easy sentence. When is it happening? It's happening in the present. Look at my next sentence. Dan was cooking dinner for us when the doorbell rang. This is easy enough for me to recognize that was cooking is going to be my verb phrase, and cooking, of course, is the same participle. It's not showing me any difference in time. But look at my helping verb. Instead of being a present tense helping verb, my helping verb is in the past tense, and that means that my sentence is a past tense sentence. One more. Dan has cooked dinner for us before. Look at how my verb phrase here has a different participle. Cooked would be my main verb, and has is my helping verb. Now, cooked would also stand alone as a simple verb tense, right? Dan cooked dinner for us yesterday. Simple past tense. But with a helping verb, this means that this word is a participle. Now, what if I had a sentence like, Dan had cooked dinner for us before? This is that pluperfect tense, or mood actually, that we've looked at before, because it's past tense, but it's happening further back than something else. So if this is my timeline, and I've got now, the present, and we're talking about something in the past, but we're talking about something further back even in the past than that, past tense, pluperfect mood, my timeline shows me different times in the past. Or Dan was cooking is something that's ongoing, right? So verbs show us tenses, and even if we don't know the names of these tenses, we still understand when things are happening because we're so familiar with English and with the use of it. All right, last thing to look at. We've got a whole lot of verbs in English that are irregular, and one of the reasons is just because English is such a mixture of other languages, of Angle, of Saxon, of French, plus, you know, every other word that we throw into English that we adopt that other languages have that we think are cool. So we've got tons and tons of verbs that have irregular present tenses, or especially irregular past and participle forms. And here are just a few examples. So the verb to see, I would say in past tense, I saw, simple past, but with a participle, I have seen. My participle is different from my simple past. You do, to do. You did, simple past. You have done, participle past. Now, I never would say you done or you have did. That would just be totally wrong, and people would laugh at you, right? You sound totally uneducated. So make sure that you're always thinking carefully about whether or not you need a helping verb with your form, or if you have a helping verb to use your participle form, or if you don't have a helping verb to use your simple past tense form. And this should be pretty easy for you to do. You've got pages and pages of practice on this in your grammar book, and it's not like it will take a long time. It's just a matter of always thinking carefully of checking that whether or not you have a helping verb and whether you're choosing the right form. So verbs show us action in sentences, and they show us the time that things happen. Verbs can stand on their own, or they can be in verb phrases, and participles are an important thing for us to watch for. So off you go to work on your Unit 3 verb work. Make sure that you ask if you've got any questions, and feel free to rewatch parts of the video if you just need an extra bit of clarification. Good luck, grade 5s and 6s.